Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey guys, I wanted to quickly share about a cool way you can support the show. Travel content creating and podcasting is so fun. But as you travel lovers know, traveling can get expensive. While I may receive trades from time to time, the flights, the behind the scenes hours filming, editing, recording, and sharing are often unseen and unpaid. There is this super cool website called buymeacoffee.com that was created specifically as a way to support creators like me. Buying Me a Coffee is a quick and simple way to show your support for the Trip Tales podcast. And Lord knows this busy Mama 3 could use a coffee to keep me recording and sharing, and maybe help with the grocery bill as well. I'll also give a special shout out by name to anyone who buys me a coffee in the following week's episode. So if you love Trip Tales, I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can get there by visiting buymeacoffee.com/Kelsey Graves. Thank you for considering supporting the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trip Tales. I am so excited about this episode because it is Monday morning and we just got back from our spring break trip to New York City this past weekend. So everything is still fresh in my mind. And it was such a wonderful spring break trip for our family of 5. My kids are 12, 9, and 7. But the reason we went is because my 12-year-old is turning 13 this week. She has a March birthday. So spring breaks are always kind of exciting because her birthday usually falls on or around spring break. And we like to go warm places for spring break. But this year, I just felt like New York City was such a fun trip for a 13-year-old girl to shop and experience the big city. My kids had briefly been to New York once for a family birthday party when we lived in Boston. We drove over because my sister and her family lived in Brooklyn. We went to my niece's first birthday party, and my husband did bring my oldest, who's now turning 13, into the city. She was probably 4 or 5 at the time, and he kind of showed her Times Square and took her around. But that was the extent of our kids experiencing a huge city like New York. So we got to planning, and I feel like we planned a pretty great trip. It was 4 nights, 5 days. I wouldn't have made it any longer or shorter. It was the perfect amount of time. One thing we did is we traveled Monday through Friday, which I really loved. Now that my kids are older, they kind of like to have those weekends to get ready for a trip or decompress after a trip, especially since they are in so many activities and sports and dance. Their weekends are usually pretty busy, but on the bookend weekends of a school break, typically there aren't any school activities, sports, practices, etc., because it is a break. So if we stay in town on those weekends, they truly have these full days to pack, relax, unwind, and that worked out really well for all of us. So we took Saturday and Sunday to pack, and then we traveled to New York Monday through Friday. And then we were home late Friday night and had all day Saturday and Sunday to do all of our laundry and get reset for the week, grocery shop. And that was really awesome. So I don't know. I know sometimes we think, you want to maximize the vacation time, but I guess depending on your kids' personalities, I'm finding that a 4-night trip is plenty and we get a lot in and we don't have to go the entire week. So I already told you the reason we planned this trip was because my daughter was turning 13 and we wanted to do a fun 13th birthday trip. I know some people take their child alone on a trip like this, but it's so hard for me to leave the others behind when we're doing something kind of epic like New York City. I don't want the others to miss out. Maybe when they're a little older, when they're 16 or 18, we'll do those solo trips. But I really love a family trip. It's so rare that we're all together for consecutive days because we are so busy at home. So it's really hard for me to take someone solo, but maybe that day will come. So we decided to bring the whole crew. We had enough Southwest points to fly our entire family to New York City on points. We only needed to purchase 4 tickets on points because I currently hold a companion pass. So my daughter, the one who's turning into a teenager, is my companion at the moment, which helps immensely for our family because I travel with her a lot for dance competitions. So with her being my companion, we save a ton of money throughout the year on her plane flights. You still have to pay about $11 in a fee if you're using points. So essentially, the entire family flew to New York City for 50 bucks round trip, which is pretty awesome. We do this by rotating Southwest cards. Last year, I opened a Southwest business card and I put all of our spending on it for a few months until I hit the bonus. And so that has helped us with our Southwest flights this year. We flew Nashville, BNA to LaGuardia, LGA. I joked about this in my Instagram stories. On Instagram, I'm just Kelsey_Graves. And I took a video of the terminal saying that I used to spend a lot of time in LaGuardia when I would travel for work to and from Chicago in ad sales. And I have vivid memories of sitting on the floor in the Southwest terminal of LaGuardia. It was so small and such low ceilings and not enough seating, like 10,000 people in this tiny terminal that only had one Dunkin' Donuts. I am not exaggerating. I'm sure some of you remember these days. And I would just sit there and my flight would get delayed and I would be like, I don't want another Dunkin' Donuts coffee, but I've been here all day. And I deemed it the seventh layer of hell. I just remember being like, I hate this place so much. I honestly feel like it's part of the reason I gave up ad sales and travel when I had my first child and was like, I will figure out content creation because I just could not bear traveling in and out of LaGuardia anymore. But I'm happy to report that it has been renovated and it is an entirely new place. High ceilings, bright white walls, beautiful restaurants and bars and shopping, clean restrooms. It was a completely different place. So I highly recommend flying into LaGuardia because then you're pretty close to the city and it's a lovely airport. Before we get into the trip, I want to talk a little bit about planning the trip because planning a trip to New York City can feel very overwhelming. There's so much to do, there's so many places to stay. It's a very busy trip, kind of similar to like a Disney trip. It's like, what are we going to do? How do we narrow this down? How are we getting from point A to point B? So, my first recommendation is to join this Facebook group called Travel to New York City with Kids by Fun Day. Fun Day must be the creator or the account that started this Facebook group. But just on Facebook, search Travel to New York City with Kids. It is a private Facebook group with over 60,000 members, and it's all about navigating New York City with kids. I joined that group probably about 6 months before I was planning this trip, and I would just kind of watch what people would ask, what people said. You can search in these groups super easily. But one thing that a lot of people do is they share their most favorite things that their family did after their trip. And this helped me narrow down what we wanted to do. You can't do everything. There's no point in trying to do everything. I think it's important to pick 4 or 5, 6 things that you want to do with your family. Keep that list and don't try to do it all. So after watching this group for a while and doing my own research in this Facebook group, I realized we wanted to do some things, including Slumu, the Slime Museum for my youngest, Summit One Vanderbilt, which is one of the newer high rises that has an entirely interactive experience, a Broadway show, shopping for my teenager for her birthday, this museum that people kept raving about called Rise New York that also included a ride with the admission, some of the iconic Times Square shopping, a fun restaurant called Ellen's Stardust Diner, dessert at Serendipity, the Jellycat Diner at FAO Schwartz, and a lunch in Chinatown or Little Italy. So I kept that list going of all the things we wanted to do and kept kind of like refining it and narrowing it down. The Facebook group also helped me pick the Broadway show we picked, 6, which I will get into more on that day. But then my next step was to use ChatGPT to help me organize our days. So I've been using ChatGPT a lot for travel, planning, I absolutely love the tool. And what you can do is you just go to chatgpt.com, or maybe it's openai.com, but just search it. I have the app now and I actually pay for the subscription because I did too many queries where they were like, your free access is up. It's time to become a paying member. And I was like, I will pay whatever you need me to pay because I'm so in love with the service. But I will say, we are going to New York City from Monday, March 10th to Friday, March 14th. This is what time our flight lands at LaGuardia. This is what time our flight takes off from LaGuardia at the end of the trip. This is the hotel we're staying in. Here are the 7, 8 things that we want to do. Make us an itinerary for the time that we are there. And within 15 seconds, it spits out a perfect itinerary dividing up your trip by areas of the city. So on day one, Statue of Liberty was another huge thing on our list. It had us go all the way down south to cover off on all the things down south. Statue of Liberty, Wall Street, 9/11 Memorial. We actually didn't end up doing it that day, but if I could do it over, I would, and I'll explain that. But anyhow, I'm saying all this to say it helps you wrap your brain around the trip and what order you could do things in so that you're not like zigzagging all over the city and you're so far from things and walking 20 minutes here and there. And this also helped me buy tickets that I needed to ahead of time for certain days. Because Summit One Vanderbilt, which is where you go up really high and you can kind of see the entire city and it's an interactive experience. The Broadway show, the Jellycat Diner, those things sell out by the time you're in New York City. So you have to buy them in advance. And I needed to know which day I was buying these things for. So once I kind of got my bearings from ChatGPT, I started creating my own itinerary in Google Word or Google Docs. And I was able to start slowly purchasing things and kind of putting it into our itinerary. Like, okay, this is set now. We've got Broadway tickets for this day. And that really helped me organize my mind around the trip. So just a little plug for ChatGPT. Another thing I did for the kids once our itinerary was fairly set was make a cute little itinerary. I know a lot of you do this now, but you can just go into Canva and search 5-day travel itinerary. You can customize it. You can add little graphics. I added the I Heart New York graphic and a Statue of Liberty and basically just said Kate's 13th birthday trip and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not everything we're doing. Of course, my itinerary that I'm accessing through Google Docs is way more detailed. It has reservation numbers. It has phone numbers in case I need to call somewhere. It has even walking distances. Like it'll take us 15 minutes to walk from this thing to this thing because I'm crazy in how I like to plan trips. But hey, it works out sometimes and you have a lovely spring break because of all the planning. But I wanted my kids to have an overview of what we were doing each day because now I let them pack themselves so they could kind of see, on this night we're going out to a Broadway show. Maybe I'll bring something a little bit nicer. So I created these little itineraries for them and gave them all the itinerary so they knew what to expect from the trip as well. And then since we did have that extra time on Saturday and Sunday before we left, I made packing lists on my computer as well. I just kind of started with one kid and made little check boxes again in Google Docs. And then I printed it and then I would change it to the next kid. And of course, things change with different kids, different genders, what they need. Print it, make another one, print it. And I even made one for my husband, which I know is a little overkill, but he packs about 5 minutes before we leave. And I needed him to see, okay, Broadway show here, walking the entire city this day. So bring like comfortable sneakers and joggers. But so everybody had their own packing list, which just helps me. I even printed one for myself. It helps me as a mom know that we have everything and then we're not scrambling once we get there. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing with that extra time I had leading up to the trip. I also just talked about this on my Instagram stories a few minutes ago, but there were a handful of things I packed that really helped. They're starting to become my travel must-haves. So I wanted to share a few of those really quickly, and I'll also put those links in the show notes. But one is a collapsible hamper. I bought this for our Disney cruise because I'd heard that that's a good thing to have in a small stateroom. We were staying in one small hotel room, all 5 of us. I'll get to that. But having a collapsible hamper that I could pop up once I got to this one-room hotel room and have everyone put their dirty clothes, especially like New York City dirty clothes. Like your clothes are pretty dirty at the end of the day in New York City. Kept the room organized, picked up, and at the end of the trip, I could dump all of the dirty clothes into trash bags and put them back in my suitcases. So I will link that. It's a simple collapse. I feel like some of these hampers you have to like twist and turn them in a real way. This one just kind of like folds over. And I am now traveling with it whenever we go anywhere because why not? It lays flat at the bottom of the suitcase and it helps keep my sanity. And if you did have a laundromat, which a lot of hotels or cruises do, then you can just like use the handles on it and use that as your laundry basket. So loving the collapsible hamper. We also always bring travel sound machines now. I brought two, and I'm glad I did. We had them on each nightstand, and with New York City being loud and hotel doors slamming, those were both going, and we slept great with the travel sound machines. Another thing I'm loving is a charging dock. It's mini. It plugs in to like the outlet at a desk in your hotel room, and it has 6 ports. And you can just put in all your little cords, or you can buy a 6 pack of cords. And every night we would just like stack up the iPads and the phones and the AirPods and charge them all in one little stack in the corner of a desk. This also helps me not be like, did you pack a charger? Did you pack a charger in their backpacks? I kind of don't care anymore because I have this little charging dock. And if their device dies on the plane, they'll learn their lesson and pack their own charger. But I know that I have one for the trip that can charge everyone's devices overnight. And lastly, we ran into a little bit of an issue the first night because when we turned off all of our hotel lights, the room was pitch black. And our bathroom had a slider door that was kind of glass or frosted glass. So when you turned on the bathroom light, it lit up like the whole room because it wasn't a full solid door, it was a glass door. So the first night, there was no way to like keep a small light on. So our kids, if they needed to go to the bathroom, were like stumbling around, tripping over stuff, asking us, like waking us up to ask if they could use our phones, the flashlight on our phone. So we did not sleep well the first night at all. And my husband and I, the next day, were on a mission to find a nightlight. We would like go in Walgreens and Dwayne Reed's, and we finally found a 2 pack of nightlights. I'm going to link one in the show notes here as well, because now I will forever just travel with one or two little simple travel nightlights so that you can put them in a bathroom. It's even nice if you don't have kids to be able to like see in the bathroom in low light in the middle of the night in a hotel. So those are my must-haves that I'm packing now for every trip and that help me in New York. One last thing is we allotted spending money in advance, which I've heard some of you say on other episodes. Other guests share that this works well for them. For the longest time, it would just be a, can I get this? Can I get that? In gift shops, no. Okay, maybe. Yeah, that could be your souvenir. You get one souvenir. Everyone get. And this time, and especially since New York City is like such a shopping hub, we gave each kid an allotted amount of money. My teen got more because it was her New York City shopping trip, and she opted to do this pretty much instead of a birthday party. And the younger two got an amount as well. Two of them have green light cards. I want to get one for my youngest as well because they can just see the declining balance. But that was really nice. And they were excited at the beginning of the trip when we told them we deposited spending money into their accounts. It kept us out of like all of the arguments and the negotiating in gift shops. They were able to see their balance and they could spend it how they want. You know, I might say, no, you can't get that stuffy. You have 100 stuffies at home. If that's what they want to spend their money on and it's their money, then who cares? Like it's out of our hands at that point. So I really enjoyed just like allotting the spending money slash souvenir money up front and being done with it. Okay, let's talk about where we stayed. So again, that Facebook group, Traveling to New York with Kids, was very helpful in figuring out where we could stay as a family of 5. I would love to be at a point soon where we are booking 2 hotel rooms without even thinking about it, but we're not there yet. And so booking one room that sleeps 5 matters to us. There are a lot of great recommendations in that Facebook group. And when I went to book this trip, I would say like the top 4 were already fully booked for New York City. So definitely plan ahead for this type of trip. But I'm very happy with where we stayed and I'm going to tell you about it. So we stayed in an Rue Palace, RIU. Some of you may be familiar with these Rue Palace and Rue resorts in like Mexico, the Dominican Republic. There are a bunch of these resorts. They've got tons of hotels. It's a Spanish company. It's actually like a family-owned company out of Mallorca, Spain, which is kind of cool. But they run a lot of large resorts in Caribbean places. Rue Palace has built 2 high-rises in Times Square. It's kind of confusing because when you're looking them up, the 2 hotel names almost are identical and they are not that far from each other. One is called Rue Plaza, Times Square, New York City, and the other one is called Rue Plaza, Manhattan, Times Square, New York City. So you can understand how this is like very confusing. And I'm sure every single day people go to the wrong one and they have to direct people to the other one. But based on my research, I booked the one with Manhattan in the name because it's the newer one. They're both new-ish, but it's the most recently built one. It has a really cool lobby with all of these kind of drama masks, like Broadway masks on the ceiling. Hey, Trip Tales listeners, I'll keep this short. If you're loving the podcast, leaving a review or buying me a coffee is the quickest way to show your support, and it will ensure that these amazing trip stories keep coming. Leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, or buy me a coffee at the link in the show notes, and I'll literally do a happy dance when it comes through. Okay, back to the show. You can book a bed and breakfast rate, which includes a massive breakfast buffet every day for your family. And it's not that much more. I can't remember exactly how much it added to the rate, but let's say it was like 20 or 30 bucks per day. We would spend more trying to feed our family breakfast than that. So it was worth it for us to book the bed and breakfast rate. Plus, it was like a massive buffet that was so fun for our kids. So when all was said and done, it ended up being about $1,200 to $1,300 for 4 nights, which equates to about $325 a night. Now, New York is expensive, and trying to sleep a family of 5 in one room is extremely challenging. So I was pretty pleased with that rate. They were running a special at the time where I got some sort of discount. So just kind of like go to the website, check it out. Rue Palace Manhattan, again, is the one I booked. This is random, but I also remember I had trouble using the discount code, even though it was like clear that it was available. I ended up calling and they booked me over the phone. So if you have any issues with the website, because it is kind of like a Spanish website, just call and they can get you booked over the phone. I'll share the hotel details in just a minute. But so we take our Southwest flight to LGA, everything smooth, easy peasy. We take a lift to the hotel, a Lyft XL, because we have 5 people and luggage. So we kind of have to book Lyft's XLs. The reason I use Lyft and not Uber is because on both my Chase Sapphire credit card and my Southwest Business credit card, I get 5 times points on Lyfts, which is amazing. If you're taking a $100 lift from LGA to downtown New York City, that's 500 points. So that's pretty awesome. So we arrived to the hotel. It is a massive high rise. I think it's 47 floors. We were super lucky and walked right into no line. We just walked right up and got our room keys. Now, other times when we were in and out of this hotel, it seems to be a popular spot for like groups. So there might be like 30 people that show up at one time in like a bus. Maybe because it's such a tall high rise, maybe because you can sleep so many people in a room. I'm not sure. But I just want to put that out there because we got lucky with our timing. But there could be a chance you walk in and there's 30 people in front of you trying to register for their rooms. But you know, it's New York. So from time to time, you're going to have to wait in line. But all the lines move really quick in New York. It seems like you'll walk into a Chipotle and the line seems so long compared to what you're used to, but they move so quickly in New York City that everything seems to move fast enough. So we were on the 30th floor. We go up to our room. It is modern looking. There's modern artwork on the walls. The bathroom is nice and clean with a big shower. I feel like that is something that's hard to find in cities. It was a spacious rain shower, which was awesome. There wasn't a ton of storage around the sink. There was one sink. So I was thankful that I had my hanging toiletry bag, which I talk about on Instagram way too much. But I was able to hook my toiletry bag on the wall, on the hook, and just kind of like leave my stuff off of the counter, which was helpful. Now, the funny thing about this room is that it has 2 queen beds and a twin sleeper sofa. The 2 queen beds are quite literally pushed right next to each other. I'm not exaggerating. It's just basically one big bed, but the covers are separate. I was like, oh, here we go. A big old family sleepover this week. And that is what it was. Night 1, we didn't sleep well because The kids were up, in the dark trying to use the bathroom. It was just kind of like, wow, we're all in one room. There's a lot of rustling of sheets and people rolling over and talking in their sleep. But by nights two, three, and four, I slept like a baby. I think you just kind of get used to your sleeping arrangements after night one on a trip. It worked out fine. Yes, it's a little unconventional, but our kids thought it was hilarious and they kind of loved having the family sleepover. But I just want you to know the two queen beds are pushed right next to each other. And then our youngest slept on the pull-out twin. Anyone could sleep on it. My sister texted me and was like, I'd offer to sleep on the pull-out twin myself so I could sleep alone. But it was like a traditional coil-based, not super nice pull-out. So I feel like the lightest weight person doesn't feel the coils as much. And she was very happy to have her own space. And then, of course, it's located in Times Square. So we didn't look out over like the Times Square lights and billboards, but we are in downtown New York City. So the kids were immediately amazed looking out the window at night at all the tall buildings. It was just a very cool New York City moment. Oh, and real quick, why we decided to stay in Times Square. If I was just going with my husband, I would not stay in Times Square. If we went back after this trip, I would not stay in Times Square, but I would not change what we did for our first family trip to New York City because staying in Times Square allows you to walk in so many different directions and get places easily on foot with a 10 to 15-minute walk. And that was really awesome. It's extremely centrally located. It's fun. The kids thought Times Square was like amazing. They loved seeing that's where the ball drops. And that is still all right up there. You can see 2025 and the big pole where the ball drops from. It's all there. I actually didn't even notice that the first day or two. And then my daughter was like, oh, look, that's where the ball drops. So for them, next New Year's Eve, they're going to be like, I was standing right there. So if I was going, like I said, again, for the first time with the family, I would not change where we stayed. But if we went back, I probably would stay somewhere just like a little more calm. But I loved staying in this Rue Palace. I felt like it worked out perfectly for us. So we got in, we got settled, and then we had time to go to dinner that first night. Now, in my plan and my itinerary and my planning heart, I had that we were going to eat at Ellen's Stardust Diner this night one. Ellen's Stardust Diner is right off of Times Square. It's where a lot of Broadway performers work when they're in between shows. So they are super talented. They have the most amazing Broadway voices. They are your server in this restaurant diner. And throughout the entire evening, they're also singing into microphones, Broadway show tunes, fun songs like Country Road, Take Me Home. It's basically just like a party. It's so fun. It's not like super nice. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a dive, but it's somewhere in between a dive and a family restaurant. It's got a disco ball. They're throwing confetti half the time. It's just kind of like silly and fun and entertaining. And I knew I wanted to eat there with the kids, but they don't take reservations. So we map ourselves. We walk all the way there. And the line is like around the block. So the way you get in is you just stand in this line and they'll call out like party of two, and whoever the closest party of two is gets to go in. Sometimes that's like halfway back through the line. There were parties of one way far back that were getting in. But it was like 7:30, 7:45 p.m. We'd been traveling. I knew that it probably wasn't smart to try to stand in this line and eat dinner like an hour from when we arrived. And I just thought, okay, we can do this another night maybe. We're just going to have to scratch this off the list right now. Meanwhile, on the way to walking to Ellen's Stardust Diner, there was this massive restaurant. It's called Junior's, all lit up in bright orange letters. I found out later it's Junior's Cheesecake, which is a famous cheesecake restaurant. I think that might have originated in Brooklyn. And it just is very inviting looking. And my daughter, my oldest, was like, let's go to Junior's. Why are we walking past this awesome restaurant? And we were like, Times Square, Junior's, whatever. We're going to Ellen's Stardust Diner. Well, then when that didn't work out, my oldest was like, Junior's. Like, we didn't even know what it was, but it's just like got these huge orange letters. Like, if you go now, you'll be like, oh, that's where they ate. And it's massive and tons of people. So we went there instead. We put our name in. Our name was called probably within 10 to 15 minutes. It's just a big old restaurant with a huge menu, kind of diner-ish. It'd been a long travel day, so I just got a club sandwich with fries. I think a lot of you know from my Instagram that my go-to meal at a pool, if I'm ordering poolside, is a club sandwich, fries, and a glass of white wine. Well, that kind of translated to my night at Junior's where I got a club sandwich, fries, and a glass of white wine. I wasn't by a pool, but hey, whatever. I was in Times Square. My oldest daughter got salmon and rice and she loved it, devoured it. She was like so happy with her meal. My husband got a French dip sandwich. And then my younger two got a grilled cheese and pasta with red sauce. Basically, it's a menu that's going to please everybody. There are things like salmon and rice that you can get. And there's also kind of all the typical diner sandwiches, burger, lots of drinks, and great service. We had an amazing server. It was kind of like, okay, this is what it was supposed to be this first night. It worked out. We actually did order cheesecake since it's a cheesecake restaurant, and that was super fun because we got to eat New York City cheesecake that first night. So it was a perfect way to start the trip. We then walked around Times Square a little bit. You know, Times Square can get a little crazy at night, and I was definitely gripping my youngest's hand the entire time and kind of keeping my head on a swivel. But I would say, in general, we felt incredibly safe this entire trip. When I would look around, there would be so many families just like us, probably on spring break. Now it's a city and there's grit and there's, people of all different walks of life roaming around, but that's part of being in a city. And personally, what we want to expose our kids to, we don't want them just to know that all life is, the suburbs of Franklin, Tennessee, where everybody talks, acts, looks just like you. But if going to New York City intimidates you, I do want to let you know that we felt incredibly safe the whole time. We watched some of the street performers where they like get a bunch of people they're going to jump over or whatever. It's fun. It's funny. The kids were wide-eyed. The Times Square billboards were glowing. And it was just like a fun way to kick off the trip. So ate at Junior's, spent a little bit of time in Times Square, and then went back to our room for our first family sleepover, which I've already told you we didn't get great sleep that first night, but as the trip went on, we slept wonderfully. Okay, Tuesday was a great day because this was our Statue of Liberty and Battery Park Day. I kind of loved kicking off the trip with the Statue of Liberty because it's just such an iconic New York landmark. And it's kind of like a lot of work to get down there, and you're on the ferry, which, it was a little chilly since we were there in March. Just kind of like getting that, I don't want to say done because it wasn't like a just check the box thing, but it was nice to kind of have that first, I would say. The Statue of Liberty ferry is something that you need to book in advance. This can sell out, so I would go ahead and pick your day and book your ticket. They recommend earlier is better because the island, Liberty Island, where the Statue of Liberty is on, just fills up more and more throughout the day and people linger, and then it just gets busier on that island throughout the day. Just as a reminder, Liberty Island is different than Ellis Island. A lot of people think it's all the same thing. That's two different islands. If you just want to go past the Statue of Liberty on a ferry, you can take the Staten Island ferry. It's very cheap. It's like public transportation. It's like $1 or $2. You can take that. It takes you over to like the Brooklyn Bridge, I think, and back. You don't even have to get off of it. And you can see the Statue of Liberty from a distance on a boat for super cheap. So that is one option. I talked to my kids and they told me they wanted to go to Liberty Island. They wanted to see the Statue of Liberty. I'm glad I asked because the only way to do that is through one company called City Cruise Statue of Liberty Ferry. You can Google this. Don't book any other tours. There is only one company that is allowed to go to Liberty Island, and it's City Cruises. So we booked a 10 a.m. ferry. I'll tell you the pricing. So for adults, 13 plus, it was about $25 per person. And then for kids, 4 to 12, it was about $16.50 per person. So for us, for our entire family, it was only $100 to go see the Statue of Liberty. I highly recommend this. Now, there are more expensive tickets that allow you to go up into the tower, like the pedestal. So what the Statue of Liberty is standing on, that pedestal, there is a lookout area there. And another ticket that allows you to go up into the crown of the Statue of Liberty and look out the windows up top. We did not book those tickets because I wasn't sure how my youngest would do. It's a lot of spiral staircases. You can watch YouTube videos and figure it out for your family. My kids wished we had booked those tickets. I still feel like I made the right decision for our family. I said, hey, this is a great reason to come back. We can go up into the crown. But for this trip, we just booked the basic ticket, which took us on a ferry to Liberty Island and to Ellis Island. We did not end up going to Ellis Island. I'll explain that in a minute. But because of our 10 a.m. ferry time down in Battery Park, which is the southernmost point of Manhattan, we needed to eat breakfast early. And I wanted to take advantage of this free breakfast, especially since we were going to be on the go the rest of the morning. So we set our alarms for 6:45 a.m. This was the only day we had to set alarms for, but sometimes you just got to do that on a trip. We got to the Rue Hotel breakfast at 7:30. You'll read this in the reviews. A lot of people have a lot to say about how they handle their breakfast process. I thought they did a great job. I don't know why people are so up in arms about this, but it's on the fifth floor. But in order to queue people up for it, you have to go down to the lobby and then they bring you up this one private elevator up to the fifth floor. So some people think they're like being weird about how they do it, but I think they were extremely organized and I loved it. So you go down to the main lobby, you get in the breakfast queue line, and they ask how many people are in your party, and then they send you up an elevator to floor 5. You walk into this massive room. There are identical buffets on both ends of the room. There is a pastry section. There's bagels, there's toast, there's donuts, there's waffles, pancakes. Then there's the hot section with bacon, eggs, hash browns, sausage. There is tons of fresh fruit. There is cheeses and meats, cereals, fresh ground coffee in these machines that grind the beans as they're making your cups of coffee, juices, water, milk. Basically, it's not gourmet, like gorgeously displayed like a five-star hotel, but it is everything you could want in a breakfast buffet. I was extremely impressed. I know that the lines can probably get long other times of the year. We were able to get in and out each time we wanted to, no problem at all. Loved having this breakfast option. So we filled up on breakfast and then we subwayed down to the Battery. You just need to do some research on, the subway stops and that sort of thing. I put it all in my Google Doc so that I could quickly reference it. But one thing that's nice is wherever you need to go, like I think the last stop on the line we were on was called South Ferry. That's also like right next to the Battery. We're just trying to get down to that area, which is where you can get on a ferry for Statue of Liberty. If you put in Google Maps, not Apple Maps, Google Maps, my location, map me to the Battery, and then you click, instead of walking, driving, you click a little subway icon, it will tell you exactly how to get there. So it's like, take the red 2 line. And then the other thing you just have to look at, when you're going down into a subway, one side is going north and one side is going south. So it often will say uptown or downtown. So from Times Square, we're going downtown towards, in this case, South Ferry stop. We did have to buy passes this first time. My best advice is just to stay calm. Yes, there's a lot going on down in the subway. People are rushing around going to work. Calm down. Go to one of the machines. In some subway stations, they only do cash. In some, they offer cards. Look at the different machine options. This first day, it was cash only. We had been warned by some friends who recently went to New York. A lot more than you would think is cash only. Like if you're in Chinatown or Little Italy, everything's cash only. So we took $300 out in cash before this trip just to have for all different things that could have come up. So on this day, we bought our Metro passes with cash. We bought each person I think one of the options was like a $14.50 Metro pass. Maybe it was $15, whatever. So we bought 5 of those. When we put in our $20 bill, it spit out our change in $1 coins. Haven't seen a $1 coin in a while. But instead of stressing about having a bunch of $1 coins now, we just used those $1 coins to buy the next one, and so on. Now, later in the trip, we discovered that many subway stations have credit card accessibility to book these passes. So do with that what you want. You can also use your phone, but my husband tried to do it a couple times and found it tricky, or he was getting some sort of a glitch for our 5 people. I think you can only buy 4 or something on the phone. So we found it easy enough just to have the paper passes, and our kids like them. They're on their bulletin boards now. We loaded up each pass, and then I would just hold them and swipe one. Okay, go through, swipe one, go through. Also at a lot of machines for the paper passes, you had to swipe them twice. I don't know why. It would say swipe again. At first I thought we did something wrong and they weren't loaded. Sometimes you have to swipe them twice. Regardless, there's definitely like a little bit of a learning curve when you're not living daily in New York City commuting. But after a couple times, it gets pretty easy. We felt safe enough. it also saves a ton of money. So each ride was $2.90, I believe. So to get our whole crew down to Battery Park from Times Square was about $15. Other times in the trip, when I tried to Uber with my daughter to like go shopping, not even going as far, like just going Times Square to SoHo, it was easily $40 to $50. So using the subway definitely saves money, but if it scares you, then just, Lyft and Uber around the city. So we took the subway down. We then Google mapped ourselves from where we exited the subway to the Battery. We already had our tickets on our phones, so we just followed the signs to the Statue City ferry. You do have to go through like airport security because obviously you're going over to the Statue of Liberty Island. So that was kind of reassuring to go through the security. Then you get on the boat. One thing I will recommend that I learned from a YouTube video, and I was so happy I had watched this, and I am a psycho planner, is I watched this YouTube video where this girl said, when you take the Statue of Liberty City Cruise, you want to get on the ferry, go all the way to the top. There's 3 levels. Go all the way to the top and stand with your hands on the railing overlooking the land, the city. Everyone who gets on that boat, you can already see the Statue of Liberty. It's way off in the distance. They all go stand on the side where they can see the Statue of Liberty because that's where you're going, right? Well, the boat turns, and the way it pulls into the dock at Liberty Island, if you go to the top deck and stake your place looking back at New York City and the land that you just came from, you will have the most insane, perfect view and video of the Statue of Liberty when you're going by it closely. So just keep that in your mind. There's seats too. We didn't sit because you kind of want to be like on the edge railing because then nobody's in front of you for a selfie with the Statue of Liberty or your own video. So anyhow, just kind of stake your place on the railing looking over the city, and you will understand why. Once we got going, it was fun. You're on the water. It was breezy, but we brought like hats and earmuffs, but we were fine. And then when you get close to the Statue of Liberty, it is really moving. Like it's so big. It was brighter than I expected. I thought it would be like kind of dingy green. It was a brighter aqua light green than I expected. The gold torch is like shining in the light. It was pretty moving. My husband and I were surprised how special it felt for us. Another tip, which you don't have to do, but we did because I watched these YouTube videos, is as you approach the dock, you can just kind of like calmly leave your spot and go down the 3 levels again towards where you're going to exit. Then you get to walk right off the boat. If you wait till you dock and then they say, okay, it's time to go, there are about 300 people that have to get off this boat. So you're going to be standing in a big clump of people for a very long time. So just another quick tip is just, after you get your videos and your picture and you're like, oh, we're here, just calmly go down all the steps and you will be ready to exit the boat with like the first 10 people as opposed to at the end of the line. So we exited the boat and then you can just kind of take your time. There was an audio tour. My husband and some of the kids grabbed that. I wouldn't say they like loved it, but they liked it. I was like, I don't need an audio tour, but thanks. We walked around the island and read different plaques about how it was made. I didn't know that a guy with the last name of Eiffel, as in Eiffel Tower, helped with this statue. So one guy is responsible for helping with the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower, pretty major. So yeah, you can read all the plaques and then you kind of make your way around to the front and you can take family photos in front of it. There were a lot of families offering to take pictures for each other, got our picture. And then one thing we really enjoyed was the Statue of Liberty Museum. This is newer and it was lovely. It was very interactive. There were lots of life-size things, like a life-size version of the Statue of Liberty's foot. And the kids they were encouraged to climb on it. Lots of history. There was a couple little videos. You could I would recommend starting there. When you first walk in, there's some rooms where you watch a few videos of the history of the Statue of Liberty. We all learned a ton. It was a great way to spend our first morning. So highly recommend city cruises down over to the Statue of Liberty and then the Statue of Liberty Museum. Once you're done, you kind of just wait for the next ferry to come back, and it's going to go to Ellis Island and stop, and then go back to Battery Park where we got on. Now, I had decided ahead of time I didn't think we needed to do Ellis Island because of our itinerary and our plans and the other things we wanted to get done that day. My son really wanted to get off at Ellis Island. It was kind of a battle. We ended up not getting off because I was trying to explain to him, I've been there, like it's a big hall. There's a lot of history there. You can look up names, but we didn't have anybody we needed to like particularly look up. He was very disappointed we didn't get off. We were already starting to kind of drag and it was maybe like 11:30. If we didn't stay on the boat and just go back to Battery Park, it was going to be like tricky with lunchtime. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to make those decisions. And as a family of five with two girls and one boy, everyone always wants to go in different directions. And that can be one of our challenging parts about travel. But we made an executive decision to not get off there. And we told him we'd return someday with him being able to go to Ellis Island. So the boat stops at Ellis Island. Most everyone gets off. Some other people get on. And then it goes back to Battery Park. Our next plan was to go to Chinatown or Little Italy for lunch. I think originally I thought we'd go to Little Italy, but I realized the next day we were eating Italian twice, which actually didn't end up happening. But so I was like, well, let's go to Chinatown because we actually love Chinese food. We order it like once a week. My youngest, she's only 7 and she's obsessed with chicken lo mein. It's so funny. She's like a college student already. And I had done some research finding out that one of the best places to get chicken lo mein in the city overall was a restaurant called WoHop, WO space HOP in Chinatown. And I kind of wanted my kids to see it or whatnot. So we map ourselves to WoHop. Chinatown, if you've been, you know, it is just a sight to be seen. It is like markets everywhere. There's some with lots of fresh fruit, and then there are a lot with a ton of raw fish with like flies on it. My youngest was like, it smells disgusting. And there is like fish scent in the air and just so many people pushing stuff, pushing coolers, pushing carts full of, the fake bags. And it is just a wild scene. So as we're making our way down Chinatown toward WoHop, all of a sudden we see all of these like FBI looking black cars. And then I start seeing all the video cameras and the tents with like directors, and I'm looking into like screens and trailers, wardrobe trailers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're filming something right here, which is such the excitement about New York City, is that there is something exciting around every corner that you would never expect. So I kind of asked two guys that have big cameras. They almost look like they could be paparazzi or something. And I'm like, do you know what they're filming? And they're like, yeah, an episode of FBI on CBS. I don't watch any of these shows like FBI, CSI, Law and Order, blah, blah, blah. But they were filming an episode of FBI. So this whole street is blocked off. They say action. This actor spills a huge trash can of fish that go everywhere, like on purpose. And my son's like, he just spilled that trash can of fish on purpose for the show. And meanwhile, the other directors are going, please keep walking, people. You are in the background of the shot. Please keep walking. So we couldn't really just stand there because they're trying to like, there's extras walking and then we're just like extras. I guess they couldn't completely shut down the sidewalk. So we had to move along. They were like, move along. But I was like, that is a New York moment. We're in Chinatown. They're filming FBI. There is cameras everywhere and black cars everywhere looking like, the FBI just showed up in Chinatown. It was super cool. We made our way to WoHop for lunch. It is downstairs in a basement, so unassuming. My kids were like, absolutely not. What are we doing? There'd been a lot of sights and smells already. They did not want to eat in Chinatown. And part of me was like, should we just go? And my husband was like, no, we made it all the way here. Get down into this basement. So we go down. They're so kind. We immediately get seated as a family of 5. Yes, the chicken fried rice and the chicken lo mein was so good, so authentic. Lovely fresh chicken. We ordered one other dish as well. They give you those wonton fried chips with the red sweet sauce. Those were delicious. It was awesome. So if you find yourself in Chinatown and you need a lunch, WoHop was amazing. Also, it was like one of our cheapest meals of the whole trip. They only took cash. I think we only ordered 3 dishes and we shared them all because they kind of come out like on a big platter, And I think our total, I can't remember, like 42 maybe. With tip, all I remember is we left 60 bucks, three 20s. The next day we went to Chipotle and it was like $63. I was like, we ate at a sit down restaurant with authentic Chinese food, tip included for 60 bucks cash. And it was the cheapest thing we ate all week, other than our free breakfast. So that was really delicious and fun. And then, as some of you may have seen on Instagram, I got a little designer bag. So I am not huge on designer bags by any means. I really don't own any, I would say. Um, but I have wanted a YSL bag for the longest time. Honestly, it started when my family went to Wild Dunes Resort on Isle of Palm and we spent one day in Charleston. I haven't spent a lot of time in Charleston. I actually want to go back with just my husband because it is such a vibe. But we spent one day with our kids, in Charleston, kind of exploring. And it was like every group of girls that walked by in their like 20s were in like the most adorable flowy dresses. And they all had a crossbody YSL bag on. And I was a little like, oh, have I missed this cool trend? I'm just, like I said, not up on all the cool designer clothes and bags. And so I just remember them all looking so cute and put together. And ever since I've been like, I would love a YSL bag for when I dress up. Well, YSL bags are $1,500, the small crossbody one. Props to you if you have one. Someday I hope that I'm in a position to be able to purchase one if I would like to. But even if I am in a position to purchase one, sometimes some things start feeling a little like, that's a lot of dollars that could be spent flying around the world. I didn't even have it in my mind to get a designer bag at all. But when they started coming out and they come out of the woodworks, they're like, purse, purse, purse. All of a sudden I saw YSL and they like bring out these little flyers, like a little laminated flyer with all the bags. And I was a little like, I actually kind of want one of these. And my husband was like, go for it. And so I was like, do you have YSL? And I wanted like a beige one, like a tan one. And they're like, yeah, yeah. I said, how much? And he said 120. He goes, hold on, let me go get it. So they run back because it's kind of like illegal, I think. So it's a little bit under on the DL. So he runs back somewhere. I don't even know where. He comes back out with it. He's like, look, it's so well made. Da, da, da. My husband was like, go for 60, go for $60. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it is so pretty. It's so great. And so I was like, 60. And he was like, no, I would make no money. This is ridiculous. No, 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 120. And I go 60. He says, fine, 80. And I was like, I was thinking about it. And then I said, no, really 60. And he goes 70 final offer. And he was kind of starting to get like a little intense. And so I was and I had all this cash we'd taken out. So I was like, fine. I looked at my husband and he looked at me a little bit like, oh, you didn't stick with the plan. But I paid him $70 cash. I got my YSL bag. I love it. I think it's cute. I made a joke on Instagram that I was like getting ready for our Broadway show. And I was like, headed to Six, the Broadway show, in my new designer bag that nobody knows is fake except for literally all of you that I told on Instagram. And it was funny because I got a couple responses earlier in the day or whatever going, like, how do you know it's real though? And I was like, oh, it's not real. But I think some people think they're real or stolen or something. But I mean, my husband and I agree. I'm 99%, 100% sure these are just made in similar factories to look identical. They're basically a copy, but they're not as well made. They're not authenticated by the brand. These are fake bags that you could buy on like, Shein or whatever that just look identical. So I'm assuming most of you agree with me, but I had people being like, how do you know it's real? And I'm like, I don't think it's real. I think it's fake. But again, I don't care. I kind of got so into it that by the end, they're everywhere, throughout New York City, Times Square. I was like almost about to buy a Louis Vuitton belt bag, like crossbody belt bag to be like, am I a designer purse girl now? But I didn't. Maybe next time when I go back. Anyhow, it is kind of fun. If you love the look and you just have no interest in spending the money, bring some cash. I think the way to do it would have just been to only have $60 cash in my hand and be like, this is all I have. I really want it. And then they'll probably take the $60 and go. Maybe you could get even lower. I have no idea. But they're starting at 120 right now, just so you know. Okay, next it was time for Slumu at 2 p.m. Slumu is a slime museum that is located in a few major cities right now. There's a Slumu in New York City, Houston, LA, Chicago and Atlanta, I think. So this is just two moms that came up with the idea to create a museum and experience entirely based around slime. I would say we all enjoyed it, but my 7-year-old loved it. It's got all these different interactive rooms, tons of slime to play with, different types of slimes. You can feel like the cloud slime or the butter slime or the high gloss slime, snow slime, whatever. Tons to play with. Then all these different rooms that you can do different things like make mold, like you can kind of like smash the slime into molds and make ice cream cones. You can get slimed if you want, where they dump slime on you. We were like, no thanks. It's like Nickelodeon style. I thought my kids would want to. They actually said they wanted to until they saw someone else do it. And then they were like, I don't really want to do that. So I didn't make anybody get slimed. There's like areas where you can walk through slime with your feet. Basically, there's probably 5 to 6 different interactive areas that you get to enjoy almost museum style before you get to the DIY slime bar, which is kind of like the end and the whole point of it. In the DIY slime bar, you've already felt all these different types of slimes and picked your favorite. You pick your type of slime out of like 6 types. You pick your scent. There's a whole scent wall where you can smell all the different scents. And then you pick your color. And so you kind of work through the stations to make your custom slime. You mix it all together. You add these charms to it. And then you get to go home with your own custom slime. It's a super fun experience, definitely for those slime lovers, those lower elementary school age kids. Definitely recommend a stop at Slumu. It is kind of farther south in the city, so you can pair it with a Statue of Liberty Day. Now, if I was doing the trip again, I would pair Statue of Liberty with the 9/11 Memorial and 9/11 Museum, which we loved, but we didn't do that first day. It wasn't in, like I said, my top 6 or 7 things to do. So it wasn't really in my brain for my itinerary that day. We had extra time at the end of the trip and went back down there, but it is a haul to get to the south point of Manhattan. So you don't really want to have to take a subway or a cab 20 to 30 minutes south twice if you're staying in Times Square. So if I could do it again, I would do Statue of Liberty, 9/11 Museum and Memorial, and then maybe Slumu later in that afternoon, because that's all kind of like farther south. And Chinatown and Little Italy are a little bit that direction too. So you can kind of like knock that all out in the first day. Then we went back for a little bit of chill time. I will say when you're working on your itinerary, definitely factor in some chill time. Factor in a few hours or a couple hours where you have time to go back to the hotel, drop your bags, put your feet up. Someone might nap. Someone might just chill out on an iPad. New York is so go, 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 kind of like Disney World, where you need to factor in that break time at the end of the day or people are going to be melting down. So we went back to the hotel and chilled. We did a little shopping around Times Square, the easy stuff that was there, Sephora, Lululemon, H&M. Kim Kardashian has a new Skims store there. It was so nice. I didn't buy anything because Skims is so expensive, but I will say I didn't want to love Skims, but I was gifted a pair of Skims pajamas. They are the most comfortable pajamas I've ever put on my body in my entire life. I've been careful not to dry them. I just wash them and let them hang dry. I want another pair so badly. Maybe Skims will sponsor this podcast, but I'm just here to say the store was really cool, very like monochromatic. And if you can afford a pair of PJs, buy some in New York City. Okay, one thing I do want to mention, because I had heard other people saying this, I think I heard Joe Rogan say this and a few other people, that now because it's legalized, New York City just smells like weed. And that is true, you guys. Literally everywhere you go, outside or inside, it literally smells like weed all day. My kids didn't really get it. They just thought it smelled gross, or they would say it smells so weird or smoky. So everyone must be like vaping it or something. I don't really know, but I did want to give that disclaimer that like that's something to know. It really truly smells like weed everywhere you go. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, and then Tuesday night we hit up Serendipity 3 for dinner. Many of you probably know Serendipity is famous for its frozen hot chocolates. It was also in the movie Serendipity. Do you remember that cute rom-com where they keep missing each other in the New York City elevators? It's like so painful. You're like, please just like, I don't think they even had like cell phones. They couldn't text each other. But I remember being so annoyed at that movie. They were like looking for each other at the ice rink. And anyways, they eat at Serendipity. in that movie because it's called Serendipity. There are a few locations now. The newest one is in Times Square, and it is literally right next to the Rue Manhattan Hotel. So if you copy this trip, this is the easiest dinner spot for a family because you are right next to your hotel when you're finished. Now, it is pricey, tourist pricey. You've got the typical meals like cheeseburger sliders, fish tacos. They're known for their desserts though. So you could eat pizza by the slice, you could eat something more affordable and then just go here for dessert because they are known for their desserts. We had the whole meal. They did sing happy birthday to my daughter. So if it is someone's birthday, put it in the reservation notes. I forgot I had put it in the reservation notes and they did a whole happy birthday hoopla for her. We ordered one of the frozen hot chocolates, which I think is really good. And then we also ordered a sundae that had chocolate cake in it and 3 scoops of ice cream. It came with 3 vanilla scoops, but they told us you can customize it. So we got 3 different scoops of ice cream on top of this chocolate cake and all this whipped cream and cherries. And it was decadent. We don't normally order like a ton of desserts in our regular life. And we did probably every night of New York City and we were indulging ourselves. It was really fun. And then one thing that's nice about the Rue Hotel is they do have kind of a nice little bar and cafe area that stays open till midnight. So many nights we would get our kids situated. They are, dead to the world, donezo, need to chill. We'd get them their teeth brushed, get them in their PJs, let them chill on the hotel beds with their iPads or we turn on a movie. My oldest is, like I said, going on 13. She babysits our kids quite a bit now and we're in the hotel and she has a phone. So we would go down to the lobby, let the kids chill for, 45 minutes to an hour, and we'd go get a drink in the lobby and just kind of like chit chat about our day. And that was another really nice thing about this hotel. Just another check mark for the Rue Manhattan Times Square. Okay, Wednesday we woke up and went to Summit One Vanderbilt. This was amazing. If there's something you're going to add to your New York City trip, I highly recommend this. There are a lot of ways to go up high in New York City, top of the rock, the edge. There's a handful of different experiences. In that Facebook group, I kept hearing people say Summit One was our family's favorite thing. This is multiple levels. I think it's 3 levels of experiences. It is the wildest, trippiest look with like clear floors and mirrors. And it's just a very cool experience. You do want to book tickets in advance for this, so pick your day or time. Now, here's the tricky thing. It's really cool during the day because you can see as far as your eye can see New York City, Times Square, the river, the Brooklyn Bridge. But at night, it's really cool because it's all the sparkling lights of New York City. So I have read the ideal time to book is like within that hour of sunset so that you get the daytime. And then while you're up there, the sun is setting and you get that glow of the sun setting and then it turns to night. So if you've got like older kids and you're going to be out later and it's available because I think it's the most desirable time, Google what time the sun sets for while you're there and book it like 30 minutes before that. I think that would be really cool. We went at 10 a.m. because again, I've got younger-ish kids and I just kind of wanted to like get the experience and while everyone's in a good mood in the morning. So we booked 10 a.m. tickets to Summit One. This was something I booked in advance. Again, we did a quick breakfast at our hotel that was already paid for, which was awesome because we didn't have to, it feels free, on the trip once you've already paid for it. The elevator is a whole experience where there's like flashing strobe lights and you go from 0 to 90 floors in like 5 seconds. Then you walk out through these like kind of low lit hallways and walk into this room that is just like floor to ceiling, clear windows. The floors are mirrored. It is so well done and so creative. We spent so much time in that room because you can get these awesome photos against the window of the city behind you. Spent a lot of time in there. Then you go into this room where there's like these massive reflective silver beach balls that are kind of being sucked up to the ceiling by air, but they're also falling slowly. So it's just this like very wild, it's kind of hard to explain. You could go watch my Instagram highlight bubble. It's called NYC with kids. It's at the front of my highlights right now to kind of see what I'm talking about. But that was a really fun interactive room. The kids loved throwing those beach balls up into the air, and it's almost like an art installation. Then you go to another floor where you're able to walk out on those like clear plexiglass floors where you're literally hovering over the city. My husband was like, whoa, that was scary. Nobody else seemed to have any issue with it. But it's real cool. And you only get like 45 seconds in the little window because there's basically a line of people trying to move their way through. So you can kind of take a couple pictures of your family, take a selfie. Then they do have photographers taking pictures. Get the pictures by the photographers. Let them take it because at the end, you can get all of the photos sent to your phone for $25. I was ready for them to say $75. Like I was ready, the price points for these photos at these event or at these experiences. I said, how much is it to just download all the photographers' photos to my phone? And they said $25. Go visit that kiosk. I did it in a second. So get the photographer photos. And then the last floor, you go up the escalator, is like it's called Operace. And it's this whole floor with like a snack bar and a champagne bar and a lounge to sit, a little fireplace going, music playing, and an outdoor terrace with like landscaping that you can go sit outside and look at the city. It's real cool. We got some like coffees and snacks, and everybody just kind of chilled up there for a little while until we were ready to be done. 10 out of 10, highly recommend Summit One Vanderbilt. After that, we walked to Central Park, and on our way to Central Park, we passed the Apple Cube. It literally just looks like a cube. There's like no store in it. It's just this like glowing cube. And my daughter was like, can we please go in there? And we were a little like, it's just an Apple store, whatever. Well, it was really cool. You go down these spiral staircases, and it is like a whole underground world with like trees and every Apple device you could ever imagine. Tons of them. So my kids had the best time like fiddling with iPhones and iPads and MacBooks. There's also very clean bathrooms down there, benches to rest your legs. So if you do see the Cube Apple Store on Fifth Avenue, it's a great place to stop with kids. Another quick tip just for bathrooms. Sometimes it's hard, like your kid needs to go to the bathroom, and all the Starbuckses, McDonald's, Chipotle's, their bathrooms are all locked. You have to go ask for a code, which they'll probably give you if you have a kid with you, but it's just kind of like annoying. The places to go to the bathroom with kids are Apple stores, department stores like Saks, Bloomingdale's. They all have men's and women's lounges on multiple floors, and hotels. So you just walk into the hotel like you are staying there, and there's typically a bathroom in the lobby. So just keep that in mind if your kid needs to go to the bathroom, or if you need to go to the bathroom, those are the easy places to stop. Then we walked around Central Park a little bit. It was still nice, but there's nothing like Central Park in the summer or fall. It was still winter looking. It had, all the trees were bare. The grass is still kind of coming back. So it was fine, but I didn't feel like we needed to spend a ton of time there just because it didn't look as lush and beautiful as it does other times of the year. My youngest was getting very grumpy at this point. Her legs were hurting. She said she couldn't walk one more second. Well, guess what? There are ice cream trucks all throughout Central Park. So we went ahead and got her and the rest of them an ice cream. They sat on a bench and had their ice cream and were able to reset for a minute, which is a big part of a New York City trip. It's a lot of walking. So when you can find those times to just get a pretzel or a hot dog or an ice cream and find somewhere to sit for 15 to 20 minutes, that goes a long way. Okay, then it was time to go chill at the hotel for a little bit before we went to our Broadway show and our dinner before our Broadway show. So again, having that time where you can chill for 2 hours is crucial. Went back to the hotel, everybody chilled. Some of us changed. One thing to remember for Broadway, you can wear whatever you want. You do not have to dress up. Yes, it feels special to dress up, and that's how a lot of us grew up going to plays and theaters, but you don't have to. Now, I know a lot of people prefer that their family gets dressed up. My son had bought a new cool hoodie from the Nike store. He loved it. He likes being comfortable. He likes wearing a hoodie and Crocs with socks. He's a 10-year-old boy. So he had packed something nicer, a long sleeve collared shirt and khaki pants. I dressed nice. My oldest daughter dressed nice. My husband dressed nice. The younger two didn't want to change. They didn't want to get out of their clothes. They were in comfortable clothes. They looked fine to me. So you can wear whatever you want. I guess that's up to you. Pick your battles. But I let my son go to a Broadway show in a hoodie. Also, I'm like, you're going to an all-female show, 6, with your mom and 2 sisters and your dad. there's a little bit of give and take on some of these trips. And if he wants to go in a hoodie, I was not going to fight that battle. So we decided to see the Broadway show Six for these reasons. Again, the Facebook group helped me pick our Broadway show. Some of the top contenders based on shows that kids like are obviously Wicked, so popular right now, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Aladdin, Six is up there, and Juliet. I researched a ton about all these plays. You can even watch clips online. And Juliet was a top contender because Charlie D'Amelio from TikTok was Juliet while we were there. So my oldest was kind of like, that's cool. But there's also a lot of gender theming in Anne Juliet. I am not going to go into it on this podcast whatsoever. You can do your own research. But Juliet's best friend in the play is a male, but he goes by she. I'll just leave it at that. For some kids, it can be kind of confusing because the boy is a she. So Anne Juliet was a contender, but we decided on Six for these reasons. It is a no intermission quick show. I think it might be 70 minutes. So a lot of Broadway shows can get long. Even Wicked, the second act is kind of long and darker and slower. Don't get me wrong. I'm literally Wicked obsessed. Love the play, love the movie. But my oldest daughter had already seen Wicked in the theater. Harry Potter was also a contender because it has a lot of cool special effects, and all of us love Harry Potter. But that show's like over 3 hours long. And I just didn't know if my 7-year-old was going to make a 3 hour long show, but that was a top contender. Aladdin's a top contender, but we were just on the Disney cruise and we just saw all the Disney Broadway shows. You know, obviously they're not Broadway shows, but we chose Six because the music is super fun. There's a little bit of adult humor, but I'm telling you, it goes right over the kid's head, seriously, because they're singing into microphones. It's not perfect, the audio, because it is live, that you kind of like, I missed some of the adult humor, I would say. There's a little bit of language, but not a ton by any means. It's about Henry VIII's 6 wives, and they are in a singing competition to try to get your vote for who had the worst life, who had it worse. It's funny. They start with, you've probably heard the song, but it goes, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. So those were the 6, how they died. The last one survived. They go through their stories, they make light of it. It's funny. It's a crazy story. He had 6 wives, 5 of them died. They go through why they died, how they died, their sob stories, but it's all musically performed. And the music is so invigorating and uplifting. You could listen to the soundtrack at home. We're all singing it 24/7 now. And like I said, it was just, it's a in and out, one and done, no intermission. We all loved it. I think it's a great Broadway show, especially if your kids like singing, for 7 years old and up. And I mean, adults love it. So it's not necessarily a kid show by any means. It's probably more of an adult show, but it was highly entertaining, very talented performers. We absolutely loved it. Right before it, I had looked up, there is a family-owned Italian restaurant literally right next door to the theater. It's called Trattoria Tricoloria. It was our best dinner yet. Authentic Italian food, white tablecloths, felt fancy, wasn't too over the top or too impossible to get a reservation. I did get a reservation, probably a couple months in advance for 5:30 p.m. so that we had plenty of time before our 7 p.m. show. Actually, I think I got the reservation for 5:15 p.m. Plenty of time before our 7 p.m. show. So we were able to get in and get some candy before we sat in our seats and enjoyed the show. So absolutely loved seeing Six on Broadway. Thursday was a relaxing morning. We slept in. My husband had a couple work calls this day that he needed to do. And so I took the 3 kids around New York City, and I felt completely safe doing it. So this is just a little bit of encouragement to all of you. We walked to the closest local bagel stop, which was just called Toasties. Nothing fancy, like a deli. A ton of people were in there getting their bagels before work. I took all 3 kids in there. Everybody ordered. There was like a little ledge to sit at, and luckily it was open. So we sat there and had our bagels and muffins, and I got a coffee. I went by the Today Show because I really wanted to see Jenna Bush Hager doing her 4th hour of the Today Show, but they had it like, you can normally walk by and kind of see in. They had these almost like black not tarps, because you could see through them, but you could barely see through them. Black kind of like plastic coverings. So you really couldn't see. So I was kind of trying to stare in. And then some security guard was like, you have to keep walking here. You can't just stand there. And I was a little like, okay, boo. I was trying to see the Today Show, but I really didn't get a good view. This day we had our FAO Schwartz Jellycat Diner experience reservation. Okay. At the end of the day, this is literally paying $55 for a stuffed animal jelly cat. My husband was like, unsubscribe, not interested. I was like, why don't you stay on your work calls and you don't even have to see this? But my kids had seen it online and thought it was the coolest thing. Now, I do think jelly cats are the cutest stuffed animals known to man. It is such a creative company. These are not just any stuffed animals, they are so flipping creative and cute. Yes, it's over the top. Yes, it's also fun. Do with that what you want. You can also just walk by and see it. It's in regular FAO Schwartz. So we had some time to kill. We shopped in FAO Schwartz. They all still had a little bit of their spending money. That's just a fun experience in and of itself because it's just a massive toy store. You do have to make the Jellycat Diner reservations at least a month in advance. They open up, I think it's 4 weeks out on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Just Google it. But yeah, every Monday at 11 a.m., all the new reservations for the next week, which is 4 weeks out, open up. So just kind of stay on top of it if you want to get a reservation, because we saw lots of people being turned away who wanted to do it because they didn't have a reservation. But basically, they give you a menu and you get to pick between some of New York City's finest street foods and diner foods. So they have a hot dog, a burger, a bagel with cream cheese and lox, a stack of pancakes, a taco, a waffle. Did I already say hot dog? I can't remember. Anyways, so you pick what you want and then you stand in the line and then the little diner workers call you up and they basically pretend that they are preparing this food for you. So they get you your burger, they cook it up on the skillet. You get the skillet, you could flip it a few times. Then they add salt and pepper and ketchup or syrup. And then they package it up in like you're at a restaurant and they put it in a little to-go box and you get to bring that home along with a pin and some stickers, all in like a to-go Jellycat reusable bag. My kids loved it. They ordered a hamburger, which is so cute. It has like a little pickle and cheese and tomato and ketchup like coming out of the sides of the stuffy. It's so cute. A hot dog and then the stack of pancakes, which comes with like little blueberries on top. It's adorable. It's cheesy. We had a great time. I had someone message me that they were in Paris over spring break, and there's a Paris Jellycat patisserie where you can get like croissants, and it's like a patisserie, but same, Jellycat idea. If you aren't in the Jellycat craze, it probably seems insane to you. But there is a big fad following for Jellycat right now. Even the tweens and teens are doing Jellycat gift exchanges like exclusively at Christmas. So they'll do like a Christmas party gift exchange where you're only allowed to bring a Jellycat. So there's definitely like a big fad around it right now, which makes the experience fun. And I think from a marketing perspective, they are genius because why sell a burger for $35 when you can sell it for $55 if you just flip it in a pan a few times? So anyways, we had fun doing that. And then this afternoon, we had to divide and conquer because I was going to take my 13-year-old birthday shopping in SoHo because all of the shops that the teen girls want to hit up are all literally in one clump in SoHo. It's Addicted. It's ED, not the Addicted we think of, which was like weird jeans and like alternative rock band t-shirts. This is EDIKTED. Addicted, Garage, Brandy Melville, Sephora, PacSun. They're all right in this one area of SoHo. So that was super fun for me. I just took my oldest. We Ubered or Lyfted down to SoHo. We shopped. She had her birthday spending money. We ended up going to a really cute cafe for lunch that we just stumbled upon. We weren't planning on going there, but it was called Jack's Wife Frida. And apparently it's like a hotspot because it was packed. We got a lovely lunch. I got like a fancy breakfast sandwich and she got a fancy burger with a side salad. She got cantaloupe juice, fresh squeezed to drink. It was like a lovely spot. And then the next day, I don't know if you guys know Justin Anderson, Kristen Cavallari's best friend, but I like love him. follow her. She actually lives like right where I live, and our kids all go to the same school, which is crazy, but she doesn't know who I am. Anyways, she has a podcast, and she was doing her podcast live tour in New York City while we were there. So they were kind of like there at the same time. The next day, Justin Anderson posted that he was at Jack's wife, Frida, the restaurant. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kate, she has no idea who these people are. And I was like, look, they were there too. She didn't care. But I was like, oh, apparently we ate somewhere cool. So while we went down to SoHo shopping, my husband took my younger two ice skating in Rockefeller Center. It was kind of funny because they had seen it when we were up in the FAO Schwartz Rockefeller Center Today Show area. And they were just like, we want to go, we want to go, we want to go. And my husband was like, I do not want to do this. And it was a little like, well, we got to go. So figure it out. He decided to take them. And later he told me it was so magical and he's so glad he did it. And it makes me want to do it again with the family around Christmas time when the tree is up. But it was super easy. They just went down to the area where you rent skates and you just kind of scan a ticket or, buy a ticket on your phone, add the skate rental, lace up and go on out there. I'm sure during Christmas time there is a long line, but when we went at spring break, I didn't even know ice skating was still available in March. Apparently it's available from October 31st through March 31st. So if you have a March spring break, you can still ice skate in Rockefeller Center, which is so cool. The younger two had the best time. My husband was out there with them as well. He got a lot of cute videos, and that was definitely one of the highlights of their trip. And then this evening, we finally got our chance to go to Ellen's Stardust Diner. So this was Thursday night. We were leaving the next day, Friday, but we had a full day Friday. We didn't fly out till 8 p.m. But this was our last dinner in New York City. So I thought, let's try to go a little bit earlier. We were also meeting a friend there. One of my daughter's dance studio friends who has now graduated is at a musical theater school in Manhattan, which is so cool. So we asked her if she wanted to join us and she was available. So we met up with her at Ellen's Stardust Diner. One thing to know, you really all have to kind of go in at the same time. You're not really allowed in. We made that mistake. I went ahead and got seated and then I was trying to get her in and they were like, she can't come in. And I was like, excuse me, watch my mama bear tendencies kick in. And I got her in, don't you worry. But you really need your whole group to be together when they seat you, but you just get in this long line. It looks intimidating, but like I told you before, they just shout out party of four and who's ever the next party of four in that line gets to go. Just stand in the line, play heads up on your iPhone or whatnot, and it'll go quickly. That was super fun. They were singing and dancing and throwing confetti and the disco ball was going and we got good food. I'm trying to remember what I ordered at Ellen Stardust. Oh, I think I got a salad with some salmon on it. And, it's kind of like diner food, but all good and great shakes and great desserts. So that was definitely fun, especially if you like Broadway songs and that sort of thing. Okay. And then this is like so random and another New York moment, but directly across from our hotel, Kieran Culkin, who my husband and I love right now from Succession, and he has a new movie called A Real Pain, which all of you guys love travel if you're listening to this podcast. It is such a joy, such a simple movie about two cousins going to track their grandmother's life and journey in Poland, but it's all travel. It takes place in airports. It takes place in hotels. It takes place in tour groups that you meet up with randomly. Highly recommend for like a chill movie night for, it's not for kids, but I loved Kieran Culkin in it so much. And now he is in the famous Sales movie, Glengarry Glen Ross. They're doing a Broadway show and he's in it along with a couple other major actors. It was right across from our hotel. At one point, my husband was like, should we try to get day of tickets? I'm like, I don't think we should leave the kids in the hotel room for 3 hours while we go to a Broadway show. But so no, we did not go to see it, but we were coming back and all these people were crowded around the theater because Kieran Culkin was like supposed to come out. I will say he didn't end up coming out. Other famous actors like Bill Burr and others did come out, but I sat there with my phone for a good 35 minutes thinking he was going to come out and address the crowd. And if he had, I would have freaked out because I just think he's so funny and so cool. But just like another New York moment, it's like, oh, Kieran Culkin's here. Down the street, George Clooney was acting in another show. It's just like, in a New York minute, anything can happen. So that was just kind of like fun and exciting. Okay, then we woke up Friday on our last day. We completely slept in. We had no plans. We left Friday as an open day to do anything that we hadn't had time to do. We went to our final breakfast buffet and enjoyed our last free breakfast. The employees were so lovely at this hotel, you guys. The service was phenomenal. I just thought the employees were the best. And while we were eating our last breakfast, they were like, "We have a birthday in the house," which was happening, everywhere we were in New York City, it seemed. And it was one of the employees. They had a cupcake and a candle, and there were like 20 employees that crowded around to sing happy birthday. And I was waiting for them to give it to like a guest. And they gave it to one of the employees, and they all were like beaming, smiling, and cheering for this employee's birthday. And it was just like the cutest thing. You can tell they really have like good camaraderie and enjoy their jobs. So just another plug for the Rue Resorts. My husband again had a couple quick work calls this day. He had like a really busy week. It was a challenging time for him to leave. So we walked around again by ourselves and we're completely fine. We mapped ourselves to FAO Schwartz because my son had some buyer's remorse and did not like this magic trick he bought that did not seem to really be working as well as the guy who demonstrated it. So he returned it and that was no problem and was able to exchange for something else. My kids had wanted to get like a New York City Starbucks, so cheesy, but we just hadn't done it on the trip yet. So we got a Starbucks to walk around with, went into the M&M store. And this is the day that we did the Rise New York Museum that I raved about on Instagram. My husband met back up with us. This museum called Rise New York is in Times Square. You would think this is the cheesiest, most touristy trap in the whole world based on where it's located, but it is worth it. You can walk up and buy same day tickets here. So this is something you don't have to book in advance. You can just kind of walk up and buy tickets when you're ready. You start by watching a History of New York movie, which is very entertaining. And then the walls open up like on the other side and it looks like you're walking into a subway station. It's so cute and cool, especially if you don't ride the subway while you're there, you'll be able to see a subway. Well, a replica of a subway. Then it takes you into all of these interactive exhibits like the New York Stock Exchange. You can ring the bell. It takes you through radio in New York City, TV sets in New York City. There's the Friends couch. There's the Tonight Show set that you can take pictures in and sit on. There's an area with like paparazzi and a red carpet taking your picture. There's a Broadway section with 5 costumes from real Broadway shows. There's a fashion area with like dresses that Taylor Swift wore on The Tonight Show and Beyonce wore at a New York City Met Gala. Very cool exhibits. And then it ends with a ride that is just like Soarin' in Walt Disney World at Epcot. If you've been, most of us love that ride. It is definitely a crowd pleaser for all ages. It basically feels like you're suspended, like you're hang gliding through New York City. It's exactly like Soarin'. It turns you around, your feet are suspended. It's just as well done. While you go over the Hudson River, it kind of mists you with water. It snows at one point in New York City and it gets cold and it feels like it's snowing. There's the smells, when you're going through Central Park, it smells like flowers and like fresh cut grass. It was so fun and we did not want that ride to end. I'm telling you, it's worth it for just the ride, and the museum and the History of New York movie is all bonus. So wow, it sounds like I work for the museum and I'm selling it. I don't. They're not paying me to say this, but I loved Rise New York in Times Square. So put that on your list. Okay, and at this point, we still had 3 hours to kill before we needed to head back to LaGuardia. So this is when we decided to head back down to the South Point of Manhattan and visit the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. Again, I would try to couple that with Statue of Liberty because you don't really want to have to go down there twice. But we did have one more ride on our subway pass, so it kind of worked out for us. So we subwayed down to the 9/11 Memorial. If you haven't seen it, it is very, very impressive and moving. It is a massive water structure memorial that just kind of gets deeper and deeper. And to me, I haven't looked this up or anything, but to me, it just kind of represented the depth of grief that came with this day. But the water is kind of soothing. It's a very well done memorial. And around the edges are all the names of the people that lost their lives that day. An Instagram follower just messaged me this morning and asked me if I noticed any white roses by any of the people's names that day. I did not notice that. I also didn't know to look for it, but they put a white rose on any when it's that person's birthday that day. So you can look out and see this person's birthday. And she said she noticed a white rose and then she looked up that person and kind of read his whole story, and it was very moving for her. So that's something to look out for. We also paid to go into the 9/11 Memorial Museum. My son really likes history. He reads all those I Survived books. If you've got a middle school or a elementary school boy, you know about that series. So he really wanted to go in here. It is a big museum. There's a lot of walking. There's a lot of reading. I enjoyed it. My 7-year-old did not love the amount of walking, but my elementary boy loved it. And I think my oldest girl learned a lot because, it's a lot of heavy stuff that you're reading about and learning about. And my 7-year-old was like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. I don't want this to happen to me. So it's, you got to be ready for that museum. But the best part of that museum is a movie they're showing called BOATLIFT. Tom Hanks narrates it. It's a 12-minute documentary. I was so moved by this. If you can watch this somewhere else, you should Google it. Actually, I'm going to look it up right now real quick. Okay, it looks like maybe you can watch it on a website called Canopy, Kanopy. It looks free. So you can Google it, Boat Lift, or go to the 9/11 museum and watch it in there. But it is about how I didn't even realize this, how on 9/11, the biggest boat rescue in the history of the world took place over 9 hours. There was no way to get off of Manhattan after the attacks because they shut down all the subways, all the bridges. So people who were there were stuck and they were freaking out because they didn't know if we were like in war. They didn't know if more attacks were coming. And they all ran south and then there was nowhere to go. You're literally on an island. So all the ferries, like I talked about, the Statue of Liberty ferries, and then the Coast Guard basically put out a call and said, anyone with a boat in the entire area, come. It was so moving. There were these people that just live in other areas of New York, different boroughs, who own boats, just like people own boats all throughout the country. And they were like, we've got to go. Just civilians brought their boats. They said they've boated in New York before. They had never seen so many boats at the bottom of Manhattan in their whole life, just flying to the edge. They would just pull up on the edge. People would jump in. People would hand babies. People would hand kids. It wasn't how many people are allowed on this boat. It was how many people can we fit? And they would just take them wherever. Nobody even cared where they were going. They would just take them off Manhattan somewhere else, let them unload, and then get in touch with their loved ones. And then the boat would turn back around. And they did it for 9 hours. They said, the next biggest evacuation was, I'm going to forget it now, but it was some war, a water rescue where it took 9 days. And, New York City civilians who just went into action evacuated more people in 9 hours than have ever been evacuated by water. So as awful of a day as it was, it's a very uplifting and hopeful documentary about the spirit of Americans coming together to help each other in tragedy. So anyways, that was a little tangent, but that is a very cool documentary that's being shown in the museum. And then after our time down at the 9/11 memorials, it was time to subway back and get our luggage that we had stored at the Rue Hotel and head to LaGuardia. Travel home went smoothly. And honestly, this was such a good trip. Some trips don't go as planned. You guys know my Disney cruise story, or if you don't, you should go listen to my episode about that called Stuck at Sea. And some trips do go as planned, and you just kind of have to, be thankful. I think maybe I set the bar so low sometimes now with travel that when everything goes as planned, it feels like such a dream. Exposing our kids to city life, and not just any city, New York City, just filled my soul. They got to see Chinatown and Broadway and all these different cultures, all these different languages. My littlest was like, why is everybody speaking different languages? I was like, because honey, a lot of people from a lot of places are in New York City right now. The 9/11 memorial was so impactful for everybody. And then getting to do fun stuff like Summit One and Slumu that you only get in big cities. was such a treat. Navigating the subway as a family and teaching our kids how that all works was awesome. And overall, the trip was just so fabulous. It reminded me why I love cities so much. I just kept saying there is something so energizing about being in a big city, especially New York. There are so many hard workers, even the people selling the fake bags and the tables full of souvenirs. I'm like, good on you for getting up this morning and setting up your table and putting all these Statue of Liberty figurines out and, having a successful work day. There's an energy and a hardworking grit there that is just so palpable. Our kids loved it and we were sad to leave. Okay, I feel like I've already covered off on this, but I will wrap this up how I wrap up every episode, which is if someone out there is considering a trip to New York, what is it about the Rue Hotel and the things that we did in New York City that would make me say, just book it? I would say just book the Rue Hotel because it's easy for a family of 4 or 5. It is centrally located. You get free breakfast. You also have that little lounge in the bottom for snacks, drinks. Go do the fun city stuff, do the serious stuff like the memorial, eat some amazing food, get a slice of pizza, get a hot dog from a street vendor, go shopping, take in Times Square at night, enjoy a Broadway show. You will not regret a trip to New York City. And my kids loved it more than I thought they would, to the point where I am like, we've got to go back at Christmas time. We are doing this trip again because we all just had the best time. Okay, thank you for tuning in. We have a lot of great Trip Tales episodes coming up, including Grand Hyatt Baha Mar in the Bahamas on points. So make sure you're subscribed to the show so that you get the notifications every Monday morning when a new episode drops. And I will see you on the next episode of Trip Tales. That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.